Alright, my dudes, my bros, my guys. This one, it's not done. But I am working on it, and I'm just gonna say the build up and lead up to this one, so much better. Like, it starts off not at where the other two have been. There's build up. Basically, I'll read you the first couple of paragraphs of the first page, then I'll bring you to where it starts to actually pick up. Thursday afternoon, I was surprised by my family coming to visit from Nova Scotia. They stayed in terrace in hotel rooms and any spare place that there was in the house to sleep, leaving my older cousin Harper and my Uncle Jeremy to sleep on the two couches and me to sleep on the air mattress in the living room. The 2 days were fun with chocolate cake presents and so much Coke and Fresca. It left all of the younger kids to be bouncing off the walls. Saturday morning came with duffel bags dragged down the stairs and suitcases rolling down the halls. Tight hugs and cheek kisses from Grandma and Great Aunt Stephanie, and quick hugs and waves from my cousins, aunts, and uncles, leaving only Mom, Uncle Jeremy, and I left in the house as his plane wasn't until the next morning. We spent the afternoon cleaning up the house and Mom insisting he didn't have to, but him persisting that he had nothing better to do. Alright, so basically, it sets up the chapter a little better. Now, here's the bigger part. A little bit of a text conversation that kind of happens. Hey, you busy tonight? I smiled at his text. Nah, I'm free. Great, I'll pick you up at 6-ish. See, that starts to build what we're going to. But there's this one little scene that is oddly brushed off. We stepped out and went into the parking area and into the truck. Trevor's truck, by the way. He has a license. Luke doesn't, for personal reasons, but Trevor has a truck. First time. I looked out the window while he pulled out of the lot, and I saw someone behind the truck. Stop! I yelled as he slammed on the brakes. He looked at me confused, and while I looked out the back window to see if they were all right, they stayed where they were as if the truck wasn't moving, letting me be able to get a good look at her. She was young, probably early 20s, olive skinned, with long black hair and a messy braid, wearing a dark green shirt and jean jacket. Sound familiar? Yeah, you don't get to hear about her for a while. The cold, piercing stare at me from her dark brown eyes. She stood up straight and pulled her shoulders back before walking away briskly. We looked between each other before he shook his head and pulled in reverse again, keeping a sharper eye towards the back window. Now, there's a lot of stuff in here that you guys don't need to hear yet, so I'm just going to pause scroll to where it needs to be. We'll get to the actual death part of the chapter, which is wild, by the way. I watched to see if he saw her. He tensed and turned around quickly, but he didn't say anything about it. My attention wasn't on the movie anymore, and the unnerving feeling of her boring a hole in the back of my head had my focus for the next hour. I would turn my head to see her and jolt it back just as quick, not wanting to ruin the date because of some weirdo. Ignore her, she's probably just on something, kept running through my head to keep me from panicking, but a sobering feeling sank in the more I thought about the fact she probably had bad intentions. My leg bounced with my heel tapping against the concrete. The staring wasn't stopping, and I don't think it was going to. My eyes kept darting to the exit door. I wanted to leave, but the possibility of her following put my heart in my throat. I shifted in my seat uncomfortably, never wanting to leave a building so badly. I couldn't keep my eyes off the exit. The light from the hall was hopeful and comforting, but I couldn't leave, could I? What if she followed me? What if she got to Trevor? I grabbed at the arm of the chair to see my claws coming out. They wouldn't go back in. My sharpening teeth were nipping at my lip. I broke my focus and looked back at the movie only to see there were credits. I felt something grab my wrist and I pulled away. The lights were coming on and I had nowhere to hide. I ducked my head into the hood and crossed my arms. Hey, I heard him softly say, calm down, I'm here. He pulled one of my hands out and held it tightly. I felt my claws cut his palm. Sorry, I muttered. I have a plan, he whispered. Look, people are leaving. She will too. We'll go a bit into the credits and run back to my truck. We'll stay at my apartment until this blows over. Jeremy will be waiting. Text him when we get to my place. The build-up is a little bit more nice. It leaves you a little more disturbed. We waited until the cast and directing crew passed the screen. I read each name to take my mind off of her. The theater was thin with nearly no one left, but I never saw her leave. He tapped my arm and stood. I followed suit. Going down the stairs, I heard a seat fold and a pair of feet behind us. I didn't have to check. I knew who it was. Walking out the door, we were mixed with the coming and passing people, leaving the room small and making it hard to breathe. It's ominous, but it's wrong. It's wronginess. But we're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere weird and scary and freaky. The wind was soft but freezing, leaving the illuminated signs muted out by frost. There was a sound of feet behind us, not a group of friends leaving the theater, just one pair of shoes. The streets were empty, making her feet boom against the concrete louder and louder. I saw Trevor start moving quicker and I followed him. The road didn't feel right. Were we going the right way? It didn't feel so long getting to the theater. Her feet caught up to our speed. We moved fast, so did she. I could make out the faint shine of his truck against the thin moon. We were going to make it. The bar and gas station were just past our view. The street was dark without any street lights. We moved quickly against the gravel road, and the crunch of the stones made hope hit my chest, but there was something wrong. There were only 2 pairs of feet walking. There were no turns here for her to go. She was still here. Why wasn't she moving? Anxious, I turned to see if she left, but I couldn't see her. Just a small bright light hitting against something metallic. A scraping click came from her. She was holding a gun. Run! I screamed and shoved him ahead of me. What did she want from me? I ran harder, left, right, keeping Trevor ahead of me. My ears rang as the gun fired. I felt nothing. I kept running, left, right, left. There was a thud. I stood in place, my hands shaking from the cold. No. No, 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 no. No! Damien's voice ricocheted through my skull and my eyes got blurry. I sprinted. Trevor! My voice broke. Hey, it's okay, I'm right here. Look at me. I propped him up on my knee. She walked past us, grumbling while picking up the bullet. As she walked away, the bullet went straight through his throat. I held my hand on the back of his neck to slow down the bleeding. His voice was garbled, trying to say so many things to be drowned out by blood. He kept coughing. He was suffocating. I pushed him up, and his body was limp against me. The blood came out faster. I moved my hand to right below his Adam's apple. His head was jerking, and the same sound came out. Ah, ah, he thrashed. I pulled off his sunglasses, and he stopped twitching and rested his head on my knee. His eyes were scared and pink from crying. He started staring at me. I smiled, my vision fuzzy as tears rolled down my cheeks. Just keep looking at me. I got out, wiping the tears off his cheek. You'll be okay, I promise. I pulled some hair out of his eye and felt him burning up. We're going to get you to the hospital. I nodded as he tried to say something. Ook. Ook. Was all I could manage to understand. He kept staring, but his vision was unfocused, and I watched his eyes fade from their violet color to dark brown. What? I asked, but his ramble stopped. Blood poured out his mouth, and his head lolled back. My ears rang as I sat there stunned. No, please. I lifted him up. You can't leave me. Eyes burned. I laced my hand in his and laid him down. I can't. Come back, please. Please. I buried my face into his hoodie, holding him close. This is all my fault. I'm so sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen. Please come back to me. I'm begging. Come back. I need you. I love you. You can't go, please. We were gonna graduate and go to prom and be together. Please be with me. I cried into him. You can't leave me too. You can't. I closed my eyes as I shivered from the cold and curled close to him, wishing to listen to his heart beating. Now that is heart-wrenching. I love it. And basically, it just kind of continues on with that before he decided to try and find the huntress and kill her. And I'm not going to spoil it until it's done. But the whole point of all of this is something that I feel like y'all need to know. And it's quite important. Your first drafts are never your good draft. It'll take you more than one attempt to get your first draft good. It's taken me many a times. That first draft that y'all heard me die inside about was written in 2017. Yeah, wasn't that long ago. Then the next updated version was written in 2018. Again, not that long ago. This version was written back in April of 2019. So, 3 or 4 months ago. You will get better at your writing. You will progress quite a lot in a very short amount of time, and your skills will become stupendous and amazing and great. But you have to understand that it'll take a lot of time. I've been working on this story since 2016, and I am far from being close to being done this thing. But it gets better. Your writing gets better, the story gets better, your plot gets better, and that little vision in your head gets so much clearer. And I know that my rambling right now is probably not that interesting, and y'all are probably bored out of your mind after hearing everything I had to read about. And anybody who did stay along with it, I do appreciate. Any of you new writers, to you, from me, I know I'm not that put together, but I doubt neither are you guys. And your writing is going to get much more great. It's going to wow so many people once you're able to get it out there. But you never really get to that good stuff until you write all that crummy, weird, sloppy, unorganized, bad grammared, slow paced, awkward, nothing flowing, good for nothing, bad writing out first. You have to get that out first before you can get anywhere. Because if you can't start there, and you try so hard to get to your best copy first, it's gonna drive you fucking nuts. So write a bad version or two. Because eventually you're gonna have your good version. It might take you weeks or months, hell, years. It took me years to try and get this one chapter right. But I'm loving it. This newest version is probably the best version I have so far, and the version I'm going to stick with, because it fits more to the version that was originally in my head. I couldn't get it out when I started, but I am able to get it out now. I'm able to give you the vague idea of what I've been trying to get out for the past 3 years. So if you guys are still working on your very first drafts, the very, very first time you've ever tried to write this scene out, and it's not as good as you wanted it to be when you read it over, don't give up hope so quickly. I know I almost did a few times. I've seen plenty of people who I know who write, and their first copies look amazing. But even I know for them that they think it's awful because they see so many flaws with it that I couldn't see, because I'm not the one who's making their story. They're the ones making theirs. And in them making their own stories, they see their own flaws, and they're able to make their own ideas and visions of their own imagination become their own stories that you can't see. You can't see what they're doing. They can. And they can't see what you're doing with your story, so they won't really see much of a difference. But you will. And trust me, once you get out your best version, and no matter how long it takes, you will feel so great once it's all done. Because you know that story is perfect. Sure, it needs some spit and polish, but it's good. And one day, once you're so sure that that first copy is nice and smooth, People will find it on bookshelves and read it themselves. And maybe that'll inspire them as well. Who knows?